to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
The agenda as printed or amended will be followed for all necessary and needed actions by the council will be addressed. The agenda can be amended by proper motion. Business from the floor is welcome and allotted for on our agenda. When comments from the floor are made, you must first be recognized by the mayor, second state your name and address for the record, and third you'll have no more than 3 minutes to state your comment or concern. There are copies of the agenda available at the back of the room. There is a sign-out sheet as well, and please turn your cell phones off. Thank you.
Am I doing something wrong here?
These are on there.
I want to thank you for joining us tonight for our March City Council meeting, Tuesday, March 14th, 2017. And I'll ask first that we make a motion to approve or amend the meeting agenda for tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Bettinger.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have the honor tonight of introduction of our sheriff deputies. Sheriff Stewart with us tonight. So, Lieutenant, if you'd like to take the lead there, I appreciate it.
Yes, good evening, Mayor. Tonight we're going to introduce you to some of our staff who patrol the city of Meldon. But before we do, I'd like to introduce Sheriff James Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, citizens. It's our privilege to be here once again. It's always my privilege to be able to come and speak with everybody. For the record, my name is James Stewart. It's my distinct privilege to serve as the sheriff of Anoka County. And this is one of a handful of times each year I get to come and have some FaceTime with everyone. So if you have any questions for me while I'm here, please don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I know you know how to get a hold of me. But the biggest reason we're here tonight is to talk about the deputies that will be serving the city of Meldon for 2017, which is always a pleasure for me to be able to come and wave the flag for how proud I am of our troops. We provide, I think, an outstanding service because we hire and maintain and train outstanding individuals to work with our office. The other thing for those not as familiar with, I'll kind of brush off the cobwebs a little bit, and perhaps for our viewing audience who aren't as familiar, I also want to just remind everyone that when we talk about the contract for police services with the sheriff's office, what that actually entails is not just the representative deputies and supervisors that you'll see tonight, but a much larger scope of deputies and sergeants and lieutenants and commanders and the chief deputy, and up to including myself, including the specialty services from whether it's the reserves or the explorers, crime scene unit, SWAT, K9, you get the idea, I know. But I think it's important for everyone to understand that the contract includes direct access to all of those services as part of the contract through the cooperative effort that we have in place through our police services contract. And by being a member of that, you buy into that collaborative or that cooperative effort amongst the 8 cities that we do provide those specific services for, above and beyond the sheriff's office's services that we provide for the rest of Anoka County. And so basically what that means is you're buying into the largest police department in Anoka County, and we're proud to provide you the best services possible. The biggest reason we're here, though, is to talk about the services that you're going to be getting through the deputies and the sergeants. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Heath to kind of make those introductions and to really bring a couple of the rock stars forward tonight that are hiding in the shadows in the background here, but we want to be able to highlight them, and again, as representative of all of the staff that are proud to serve the city. Before I turn over to Lieutenant Heath, any questions I can ask while I'm here? Or answer, I should say. All right, very good, thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the city council, city staff, and citizens. Each month you guys get to see me and talk with me and see what it is that we bring to the table through me. But what I really want to highlight here is, the men and women that actually come into Nowland and take the calls for service and respond to the 911 calls and any criminal incidents that are going on here and patrol the city. It's really, Sheriff Stewart and I have the privilege of being administrators, and we work to keep the different businesses of the office going. But it's the men and women who are actually in the squad cars and the detectives and the clerical people at our office that keep the wheels of our operation moving and thereby serve the citizens of Nowland. And it's, right now tonight we have a representative sample of the people that come to Nowland. And what I'd like to do is have each of them come up. Tonight we've got Sergeant Josh Hatton, Sergeant John Pills, Deputy Matt O'Connor, and Deputy Tony Nelson here from our patrol division. And what I'd like to have them do is just come up and introduce themselves to the council and the citizens and just explain just a little bit about themselves, their years of service with the office, and any specialties that they have, just so everybody here understands what, the people that are actually coming into town and taking the calls and patrolling the streets. So with that, we'll start with Deputy O'Connor.
Hi, Matt O'Connor. I've been here with the Sheriff's Office as a CSO since 2010. 2014, I was hired on as a deputy. I spent last year out here as well. I believe I came out and met a few of you here last year. No specialties yet, but things I'm interested in is K-9 position, FTO, part of our drug task force and things like that. So those are some of the goals that I hope to achieve in my time here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. My name is Deputy Tony Nelson. Been with Anoka County for 7 years, a couple years as a reserve deputy and then a sworn deputy for the last 5. Completed my bachelor's degree from the University of Minnesota and been a resident of Anoka County for the majority of my life. My role at the Sheriff's Office, serve as the pistol armorer, also field training officer and part of our mobile field force team. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Sergeant Josh Hatton. Started with the Sheriff's Office in May of 2000. Started my 17th year here. Patrol supervisor. My time, I'm the Honor Guard commander, SWAT team leader, Glock armor, taser instructor. 12 years in the military. It's been 12 years in the military. That's pretty much all I got for you. Thank you.
And last but not least, my name's John Pills. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for over 25 years, over 20 years SWAT. Currently a team leader on SWAT. I'm the K-9 coordinator. I'd have to look at my resume to name them all. I don't recall all the things that I've been involved with, but I've been here a long time. I trained the sheriff in. He was my first rookie. So I've been here longer than him.
Best rookie, Jim?
Let's not go there. I still have to do my job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Sheriff, do you have anything else you'd like to?
Not unless anyone has something for us.
I have questions for the
Yes, sir.
deputies, I guess. You're on a SWAT team, you're a SWAT leader, SWAT trainer. You haven't quite taught the sheriff how to use a taser yet, but that's coming. What's it like patrolling now then? I mean, you go from some very intense situations to generally, it's quieter out here. And what do you like about what's going on out here, and what are the benefits, and what are the challenges we should be aware of for those that actually are on the streets? What do you?
I don't know about challenges, like you said, it is pretty slow. A lot of things that we deal with, I'd say, are medicals, alarm calls, things of that nature, which is kind of nice for us because when we go to those types of calls, we have good interactions with the public. One of the things that I do like about coming out here, especially with the recent, you would say, perception of law enforcement over the last years, I can't even go to Bill's and fill up gas without people coming up, saying hi, saying how much they appreciate what we do. I know that's one benefit that makes me want to keep coming out here.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would just expand on that. I know it's been a few years since I've been pushing a squad car, but from my standpoint, people are people. And with the lesser population, doesn't mean there aren't still gonna be challenges out here. And as I sat here and kind of scanned through my own memory banks, some of the most significant calls that I've been a part of occurred in Nowthen and then in Burns Township. But it's not always the dense population that creates some of those intense calls. And regardless of where those issues happen, we're gonna respond to and deal with them accordingly. I think the nice thing, from my perspective, being out here also, is not just the great people, but it's the large acreage. I mean, people, I think, tend to just be happier where they're living, because they have, the homes and the acreage and a little bit more to perhaps be proud of than in more of the dense populated areas. So it's a nice place to be.
Mr. Mayor, got a question here.
Al?
How often is somebody here in the general area? Is there always somebody in the general area?
Yep, yeah, what I can tell you is right now, there's always somebody that's assigned to this part of the county, the western portion and Nowthen. Nowthen contracts for 8 hours of police services a day, but the way we work our scheduling, there's a deputy that's always in the general vicinity, and also probably more often than not in the city of Nowthen. So, but it really varies, because that deputy also responds to assist other of our contract cities and other, they'll go down into Ramsey, up into St. Francis. That's our West Side County car that is generally free to do those type of things.
In the news recently, in the past couple of weeks, they've had the police department said there's been an upswing in meth. Is that here now, or is it something you guys keep an eye on?
One of the things that I can tell you, and these gentlemen would probably tell you as well, is meth never left.
Right.
It just became less of a news story than it always has been. And yeah, heroin really dominated the news for a long time, but meth never went anywhere. I don't know as if the numbers are increasing alarmingly, but we're seeing a lot more activity in Anoka County that is directly related to the drug cartels in Mexico. And like the sheriff pointed to before, if it's in, Nowthen is a representation of every other population we have. It might just be on a smaller scale due to the population size and the geographic location of the city, but all the same problems will exist here as exist elsewhere. It's just the scale and magnitude of how they exist here. Yes, sir.
I was curious, how many deputies are on how many patrol officers do you have out on the street in Anoka County?
At any one time?
That are on payroll?
Well, we have our total licensed staff with the office is 150.
That's including people that are out
That
behind
is-
us too?
That includes.
Well, that would be up to about 300 total staff. About 150 of those are licensed officers.
Thank you.
Not all of them are assigned to our patrol division. They're scattered through other divisions in the office.
I understand. Thank you.
Mhm.
Back to the meth, would you say that the meth has never gone, but have the labs decreased? I mean, that was one of the big problems, was the meth labs.
Yes, what's happened is, years ago, if everybody remembers, the state cracked down on the ability to buy ephedrine-related products, and that was a key component in methamphetamine labs. Well, when they cracked down on that, what's happened is we've seen last year, Anoka County had no meth labs that we found, that we actually had to clean up or process. But what's happened is in Mexico, they've created what they're dubbed super labs. They're basically manufacturing methamphetamine there in such large quantities that they can produce it cheap enough there and send enough of it here that it's worth their time and money to do so. So we're not seeing meth labs here. It's almost everything we see here is coming from Mexico.
Lieutenant, if I could just piggyback on that, I was the team leader for the DTF, the Drug Task Force, and in 2001, we had 52 meth labs in Anoka County. So that's how it's changed since 2001. We had 1 week back in 2001.
So we were number one, I think, 4 or 5 years
For the
running
state.
in recoveries, and of course, the quick snapshot is people go, wow, you've really got a problem up there. And my response was, we do, but so does everyone else. I think we were number one because we were also very aggressive and effective in the identification and the apprehension of the individuals that were creating these slabs. And conversely, I don't know if you want to touch on some of the, I mean, our drug task force, the Anoka Hennepin Narcotics and Violent Crimes Task Force, has had many years of outstanding success stories, including this past year with some of the state's largest seizures in history.
Yeah, there was a little more than, I want to say there was 400 pounds of methamphetamine seized in the state last year, and Anoka Hennepin Narcotics and Violent Crimes Task Force seized just about 200 pounds of that. So that's the officers in this area and part of Hennepin County doing that work. So there's a lot of it here, but the sheriff is right, we have a very aggressive group of people, and we have for years, dating back when Sergeant Pills was a team leader on the task force, had a very aggressive drug enforcement arm of law enforcement in this county.
Anything else there? Well, we certainly want to thank you. We appreciate the relationship we have with the department, with the staff. And you know, I know in visiting people's homes, certainly the quick response to emergency situations, I think medicals are one of the things we see quite often out here. And you know, the excellent reports of the professional service and the gratefulness that residents have for the professional services that the department provides. We greatly appreciate your service to us. And I love to hear the fact that you can't gas up at bills without congratulations, because it's one of the things we do try and encourage is let our emergency services, whether it's the sheriff's department, whether it's the fire department, you know, express your gratitude wherever you can, and we are grateful, and so it's nice to hear some feedback on that. So thank you for taking the time for being with us tonight and introducing yourself again, and we look forward to a long and fruitful relationship. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Thank you.
We'll turn it over to the lieutenant to take up. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
And I just had a couple of things I wanted to outline this month. I hope everybody was able to make the calls for service report. I think I double checked with Corey and made sure that we got that this month, so hopefully everybody saw it. In February of 2017, we received 84 calls for service in Nowden. 7 were to bar none, and one of those was an assault against a staff member, one was a warrant arrest, and then several juvenile runaways. So there's some things going on there, but the interesting thing about bar none to always keep in mind with stuff, they have a locked side of their facility and then a part that's not locked. And that's just based on who is there. So the people that run away, it can be misleading if you don't know that, but it's not always and I think rarely somebody that actually leaves from the locked unit, but some of them are unlocked units, and people can simply walk out the door if they choose to. So I just wanted to throw that out there just in case people weren't aware that some people aren't court ordered there for criminal stuff, they're just placed there by social services or something else like that.
So it's not a prison break, it's a walk away.
Correct.
But there still should be.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that there was a little bit of a difference. And then I just wanted to outline a couple calls this month, again, it goes back to, there's always people out there looking to mess with the hardworking citizens who work to amass something. On the 20th, we had a residential burglary in the 20300 block of Basalt Street. Somebody forced entry into a garage window and then from the garage into the house. And what's interesting is nothing was found missing, but it was obvious that somebody had gone through the house. So that's one of those things that I'm not sure if it was a mistaken address or what it was, because we don't normally see that. If somebody breaks into a house, there's usually things missing. So I'm not sure what to surmise from that. But at this point, there's no suspects, and there was nothing missing from the home. But obviously, I'm sure very alarming to the owner of the home. And then on the 21st, A white 12-foot enclosed trailer was reported stolen from a construction site in the 8500 block of 221st Avenue Northwest. Trailer contained construction equipment. The doors were locked and stuff on the trailer, but they didn't do anything to try to secure the tongue. And they had left it on a job site and came back and it was gone. The trailer itself and many of the contents that had serial numbers were all entered as stolen, so we hope that we have investigators that search pawn records. Like if somebody goes to pawn something at a pawn shop, they have to enter the serial number. So our hope is that we can find some of that stuff through pawn and then, or an officer runs the serial number of that trailer or the license plate number and sees it as stolen and can be recovered. But at this point, there are no suspects in that case either. So that's all I have.
Anything for the lieutenant?
Mr. Mayor? Cindy, I do have a question. I had somebody call me. We have a property down on Nowland Boulevard, just south of 185th, that's abandoned or for sale now. It's got a big gravel pit. Apparently there's people still getting in there and having parties or bonfires and whatnot.
Okay.
So what's the best way to tell them to contact the sheriff's office? Just 911 or a different number? Or?
Yep, the absolute best way is to call 911. It's the simplest. I always tell people, if you sat down at our communications center, it's a group of people in a room just like this, and they pick up the phone no matter, and if you call the non-emergency number, the same people answer the phone. So the advantage to them is when somebody calls 911, it gives them a lot of the information that they need right away. Like it'll give the address that they're calling from, or if it's a cell phone, it'll give them a location. So people think they get a little bit nervous. Well, I don't want to call 911, it's not an emergency, but it's the same people answering the same phones. And one of the things that you'll notice when you call is if they can't talk to you right away, or if they're extremely busy, they'll say, is this an emergency? And if you say no, they'll put you on hold. And then they'll get to you, they'll come back to you when they're less busy. So that's the easiest answer.
Anything else? All right, thank you very much, Lieutenant. All right, still light out.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. Go with you.
Good night.
Yeah.
All right, floor items, Mr. Dan Williams.
Dan Williams, 7967 191st Lane, Northwest. I just have a couple things here. Seems the council debated where the money will come from to have city code brought up to date. But during the discussion, we prepare, paint the city hall came up. A majority of our council members voted to pay out $5,000 without any details what the project consisted of. They had no quotes. It was talked about using carryover funds from last year. But why not use the carryover funds to pay the city planner to update the city code? I'm told that would cost less than $2,000, close to $1,000. Then have the staff, once we're up to par, then train the staff on keep it so it won't go in the rears again. Then I had other concerns. I went to discussion to donate $2,500 plus firefighters' time, staff time, free use of facilities in the park comes up. The council doesn't have any problem paying for these things using tax dollars. It was come to my attention that there's 32 hours of fireman time there, and some people think that the festival is smaller now and they don't need 32 hours, which is roughly 4 guys, 8 hours, to put on a display on the Jaws of Life and what they do. And some people think they only need one person interpretation for the Jaws of Life display, and then maybe one other guy walking around for a medical emergency. Some people just think that 32 hours is excessive. And I know some people are frivolous about spending money. But, you know, I think that needs to be looked into and that could be cut down since it's taxpayers' money. Constable Mary always claims to be frivolous while spending money, but doesn't have any problem spending over $2,500 on a one-day event. That doesn't show any benefit to the city. There's other people who have private shows that bring people into the city and they want to know, can they use staff time and facilities and stuff for free? You know, it seems like there's some favoritism here. Some festivals that are private, they don't have any. So how do they get? Can they get the same thing that the Heritage Festival get? Because some people think because Mary's a board member and Jeff's wife is on the board of the Heritage Festival that they get these perks, and the other people want to know if they can get these things too. It's their taxpayers, and it's they're all private, and they do bring people into the city of now. Then, thank you.
All right, consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Bettinger.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Road and Bridge.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Bettinger.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2017 graveling plan.
Motion,
I'll second that.
motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I'm wondering if, do we have dollars associated with this? I know that we budgeted, but what are we looking for, or looking at for the total dollars for the year? And in addition to that, I'm wondering, last year when we approved the gravel and the dust control, I believe council asked for a final report as to what was accomplished and compared to what was originally forecasted. And we may have gotten that, but I don't remember receiving that report.
We have a motion to approve. If you're asking for dollars before you vote, or you're asking
Mr. Mayor?
for supporting documentation, last year's plan versus actual and this year's cost?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I prefer to have that before we vote.
I do know that while this is the plan, there is a defined budget for the gravel for this year, so I would presume that it's not in excess of that. But again, we don't know that, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember,
I don't know if Councilman Bettinger would want to change his motion then just for the amount of the gravel plan not to exceed what is budgeted,
Sure.
which I think Joe does a pretty good job at anyway.
I think this, I didn't pull up last year's, but I think this is, I don't know if he's changed it, but normally there's a 5-year gravel plan, and I don't know if this is the same streets around the plan that was already approved, and he's just bringing this up to date, that this is what's being done.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
Again, we don't know if this is what is typically done on a 5-year basis or what. I would like to have detail. Are we doing anything new? Why are we doing new? If we're dropping, why are we dropping? And again, what did we what did we do in 2016 versus what was approved, why we didn't do something or why we added something.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Ricker.
I understand that to an extent, but the other thing is we gotta rely on our staff to be able to, we set a budget for them to go. I couldn't go out and tell you that this gravel road's gonna need this much more gravel than this other road, and that may be the case, and they're gonna know that. And if they do what, and again, if they get 5 of the 6, what is it, 2, 4, yeah, 6, and they've reached the budget, then they need to stop. But again, I'm not an expert on graveling. They do it on a daily basis. They have a set budget, and if they stay within that budget, I have no issues with that. And for Joe to come and say, well, this road's in this amount of shape, so I'm gonna have to put an extra couple, I don't know if he goes by inches or tons or whatever, I wouldn't have a clue what that means. And again, I think that's where we need to rely on staff, and we have budgeted a certain amount. We should rely on staff to do what they have planned, and again, as long as they don't go over that budget, I don't have an issue with that. And if he hasn't reached that budget and he gets these 6 done, it's been typically, he'll go down the list to the next amount until he does reach that budget.
Mr. Mayor, in working with Joe all these years with his gravel plan, basically how he's set it up is he puts together his plan of the proposed roads that he wants to do for the year. Given this time of the year that he puts it together until the spring thaw comes out, this is a set plan. This gets changed on occasion because some roads are rougher than others with the spring thaw coming out. And you'll have seen, if we pull out history of other years, you'll see how he might gravel ahead, or he might have to switch some roads, depending on the severity of the roads. So what he's presenting to you is just his project plan of which roads he's planning on doing. This could change, given that if we're asking for costs, we won't know those until we know how bad the roads are this spring. And it's one of those situations that you don't just sit on it and you don't wait to go to council meetings. If the roads are ready to be gravelled, they're ready. And he's getting the equipment already ready to start graveling.
How's the discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
Again, I'm just looking for, is this different than what was projected before? I believe we had requested that we have a final report from last year so that we would know if something didn't get done, are any of these carryovers? Are any of them new? Just some more detail as to what this is as far, we have street names and, the beginning and end, but are any of these new? Are we doing additional? Why are we doing additional? More just information. I understand Joe knows what needs to be done and he knows when it needs to be done. I'm not questioning that. But if there's something different in here and somebody that lives on 189th and they come up to me and say, how come I look and it's, we used to do more, now we don't do as much, why is that? And I don't have an answer to any question that a resident on any of these roads would ask.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Bettinger.
I think it's a 5-year gravel plan that he's had put together, and they try to hit all the roads in a 5-year cycle, is the plan. And like Paul said, things change. Sometimes this spring, the thaw and stuff, they get soft spots, they have to go repair. Sometimes you may get soft spots or thin spots on roads that he gravelled last year on the top of the hills and stuff. Sometimes the plows may knock it off or erosion. So they, on top of what they have planned for streets, there's probably a lot of spot graveling they do too. But this is just a 5-year plan. I think we probably already approved it. I think it's just a confirmation on the roads that he wanted to proceed with for this year. So, and I thought we did receive a report from him like in August on last year's, or in the fall, but we could have him resubmit that report to us on last year's. And I can make that part of my motion, is that the last year's gravel report be given to the city council.
Mr. Mayor,
Moreno.
Councilmember Bettinger, would you also amend your motion to include then, when the graveling season for 2017 is done, we get a report on what was done versus what was requested?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so we have an amended motion to include the 2016 plan versus actual, 2017 plan versus actual, and not to exceed the budgeted amount. Any good? Anything else? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Council item, City Hall HVAC system update.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Benton.
I'd like a motion to table this until we come up with monies to pay for it, and if we don't come up with monies to pay for it this year, that we use this for budgeting purposes for next year.
Motion to table. Do we have a second? I'll second it so we can have a discussion here. We did get a last minute submission. It seems to be lower than what we have here. Mr. Schrader, did you want to speak to anything on this at this point?
Just a few things, thank you, Mayor and Council. The attempted to pull together as much information as we could from the contractors, realizing that this is the start of another building season, and a lot of people do have, commitments with builders and so on. So trying to get attention to this project, although it's very important to us and it's important to them as well, it's somewhat of a challenge to gain the information that we would want to make our decisions, or for the council to make your decisions. I did do the research asked of me to look at the one furnace option, and the engineering and the carpentry involved versus any potential savings seem to negate that move. I did have a structural mechanical engineer in the city hall as well, and he was of the same opinion, that we still have the same amount of space to heat and cool. So going to a one unit option versus two, at the surface may look like something we should look into, and we did, but at the end of the game, it's not something that's really gonna be feasible, because of the structure and the configuration of that bearing wall. And I did detail that out in some of my communications to you. And I believe Corey did communicate to council that last Thursday when I was here working with one of the contractors, the main furnace in this portion had gone out. The thermocoupler had to be replaced, and kick it on the side a few times, and we did get a heartbeat again. We do have it running again. However, I'm a little concerned, although we're hopefully on the waning edges of winter here. Hopefully the furnace is not as critical as it had been in the past part of the winter, but certainly they both serve their purpose. They've lived their life, and I think they're both due to be replaced. The conversation, in my opinion, should really center around the efficiencies. Do you want to replace what is currently here, which is basically called an 80%er? Or do you want to increase the efficiency one step to what's called a 90+? Or in higher yet, efficiency, which we did have two contractors bid on. I think that's where maybe the conversation could center, as far as the efficiency rating that you desire.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rickett.
Andy, is there any way through data or reports that have been published that you could find out, or we can find out, okay, if we go to a 95.5% compared to an 80, what the actual cost savings is for the justification of the difference between the furnace itself.
Mayor and council, that's a great question. I played around online with a furnace calculator, the efficiency calculator between the 80 and the 90 plus. I did not go to an 80 to a 96 or 95 or anything like that. The difference between the 80 and the 90 plus is about 7 to 10 years. Given our region, our mean temperature, our gas utilization rates and so on. So it's around 7 to 10 years. And safe to say, the more you use, the more potential there is to save. And the building configuration, what it is with the windows and the age and the insulation, my guess is that we would be on the lower end of that 7 to 10 years, just because we use more energy than a building of the same footprint that would be of a higher energy, type of construction. So the best answer is 7 to 10 years, and I think we're on the lower end of that 7 to 10 years, between the 80 and the 90.
And there's no rebates at 80, there's some rebates at 90 and more significant rebates at 95?
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember?
And I guess from my perspective, you go 95.5, $300 rebate isn't significant in the difference between the furnace costs themselves, so.
Is that what the rebate is?
Yeah.
Yeah, the difference in the rebates is around $100 between the 95 and the higher efficiency yet. So I would think the middle of the road, as with most subjects, the 90+ range would be, from what I've seen from pricing and efficiency ratings, what would be the best fit here? Certainly not to go to the 80%. That's yesterday's technology. Actually, day before yesterday, and then some.
I think that's last month.
The other thing too, just to note, is that the 80%ers, the ones that are here, don't technically have the amount of combustion air needed. The direct vent actually is a much better system. It's a 2-pipe system, brings in its own combustion air and expels its flue gases. Well, right now, the furnaces that are here are obtaining the combustion air from the space itself. And that air is just gained from leakage. It doesn't have a passive air makeup in that room, which is just unfortunate.
And on the Hidden Acres, there's a line item, plus chimney liner if needed. We're venting out the wall, are we still using that chimney?
Where are you seeing that notation, Mayor?
I'm saying.
If you go to high efficiency, you don't.
Correct.
But if you go to 80%, then you would.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
A couple of questions I had on them is, on air comfort, so it's plus permit fees, no high voltage electrical included. And then on Hidden Acres, it doesn't talk about removal and disposal. Now, I'm assuming that is part of it, but there is one, and Air Mechanical does specifically say disconnect and dispose of 2 existing furnaces and 1 AC system.
Correct, Mayor and Council,
So-
that is industry standard, and I did communicate with each one of them, and they will take and dispose of the old
Okay.
equipment.
All right, and then, the one does mention plus permit fees. Are all of them plus permit?
Correct.
Okay,
And then the high voltage electrical would be, again, if council chose to add air conditioning to the kitchen side.
that's for the kitchen side,
Right.
okay.
And that's, Mayor and Council, if I might, that's why I did ask for that 10% contingency fund. It certainly could be lower than that, but I just wanted to have a little bit of leeway in case something came up. Given the fact that the furnace went out last Thursday, I just wanted to make sure that the building was fitted with the furnace, and we wouldn't have to trouble council with it any longer. Just in case there was something, I believe we covered our bases.
Okay.
So Air Mechanical, we have a 92% option and 95.
Correct. All of the contractors, I'm sorry.
The others were 80 and 95, right? Did anybody else give a 90, 92?
We had four, Mayor and Council, we had four contractors, Hidden Acres, Air Mechanical, Air Comfort, and North Suburban, all gave a 90+. The three that are listed, and then plus North Suburban, theirs calculated to be 10,450 when you add the air conditioner for the kitchen side. So there's a little bit of variance in there, but nothing that's real dramatic.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rickard.
Question to you, Annie. I guess from your experience, over the years, is there one brand that you seem to have less issues with than others?
Mayor and Council, not necessarily. When I had the addition put onto my house, he came in with a Coleman furnace. And I thought a Coleman was a lantern. And I couldn't be happier with it. It's a 2-stage direct vent furnace. I think it's 100,000 BTU and it runs like a charm. So I think some of this is Ford and Chevy, where there's certain brand loyalty. And that's one nice thing about this procedure is it gave the contractors the ability to choose the equipment that they're comfortable with, that they're familiar with, and so on. So I think the actual brand names of these equipments are maybe a little less important.
On our claims this month, we have a $700 claim for repairs to city office furnace. Lower motor went out. Is that a recent? Is that a recent motor out? That's not the one we had last year. But we had something.
We had something else go out on the, Joe came into work and it was screaming. And he had to shut it down and we had to come out and replace the blower on it.
So that's a newer one, and that was a $700 motor.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rickard.
Question to Cory. Have we ever looked at the Service Plus? Is that an option that we can get?
I guess we never got to,
Because I know all gas appliances are covered under their Service Plus program, for a fee, obviously, and I don't recall what that fee is. But.
Actually, they'll cover all of them.
Well, if you pay additional fees, yes, you can cover everything, but by default, your gas ones are under their general plan.
But that's just
That's
for service, that's not for replacement.
Oh, yeah, it covers parts?
Yeah.
But I mean, if your furnace needs to be totally replaced, it doesn't cover it.
Correct, but and the reason I went there is
Motor
because,
going out on that one.
yeah, $700 motor, depending on what it is, I don't know what it is per month.
Mr. Mayor? To
Councilmember
Councilmember Rick, I know they have that for residential, do they have it for
I
commercial?
don't know, that was my question.
Okay,
It may not be
yeah,
some bad idea, it's something to look at.
They have-
Because again, if we replace the furnaces here, they're covered under warranty for an X time, but then above and beyond that.
We got our thermocouple replaced. We're limping along here. We're maybe coming to the end of the season. It's supposed to be 50s this weekend. We have one furnace that we haven't had problems with. I'd like to go back to I think with the North Suburban additional information, I think it would behoove us to get a more complete spreadsheet comparing apples to apples. And to Councilmember Bettinger's expressed concern there, where's the money coming from? I'd like to revisit the tabling it until we have a more complete spreadsheet and look at the budget where the dollars are coming from. So I would move to table and get that additional information.
Mayor and Council, what additional information would you like me to provide?
I would like to see, we've got North Suburban here with multiple things. I'd like to see them added to the spreadsheet so that the spreadsheet actually says this is this efficiency with this air conditioner. Right now, the spreadsheet we have doesn't really break that out. It gives a total number.
Okay.
But it doesn't really say this is for the additional air conditioner in the kitchen. So I'd like to see a little more complete spreadsheet, and then for the council to figure out where the money comes out of the budget.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rickard.
I guess from my perspective with that, in my opinion, I think we could.
Technically, we need a second before we go on.
We could, well, I'll second,
Yeah, Mr.
But
Mayor.
he made a motion to do
You already
that.
have a motion on the floor.
to table it.
Yeah.
To
Yeah, you
table.
seconded Randy's
You
motion.
seconded
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. yes,
So
I
we're
did.
still under discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mistake.
So, from my perspective, I would like to, for us, just for Andy's sake too, is drop the 80% efficiency off the table and just,
I agree.
you know, look at the 90 plus and above.
Mayor and council, would you like the brand names next to them as well, or does that maybe not make as much difference to you?
I think that, we're putting a spreadsheet together, we should have the brand names there. Just if somebody happens to see that and say, oh, by the way, I know that one, that's a good one, or stay away from that one, it would be helpful.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question to Andy. Is providing this additional information, is that gonna still be within the allotted $200 amount that you were given to do this in?
I'd rather it weren't. I do have quite a bit of time assembling this information. It won't take a whole lot longer to push this over the finish line, so I'd be open to discussion on that, but, I've used that up, basically. But if you'd like, I can certainly push this the rest of the way. So no. I will not charge an additional fee for this.
All right, any additional discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainbow.
The thought of having an air conditioner, is trying to whittle it down a little bit more. The thought of the air conditioner in the kitchen area, do we think that that's a necessity? We've not had one. There's been some warm days in there, but we've not had one in there. Is that something we think as a council is needed? And maybe just take that part
Well,
off,
the only thing is, we do rent this out for, I don't know how often the kitchen goes with it when it's rented out, but as a commercial building rented out, when somebody does pay money to rent it,
Okay.
I would think that if you're cooking in the summertime, you would wanna have something.
All right,
Maybe it's a window air conditioner, I
all right, thank you.
don't know. Any other discussion?
I do have a question. Would you like this to wait until next month, or do you want me to assemble this and send it to you ahead of time? I would imagine we'll have to wait till the council meets again to make a decision.
It'd be nice to have the information ahead of time, but our decision will be, short of the furnace going out and calling a special meeting, it would be taken up the meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Well, that-
would the prices change that much? Say if we don't have enough money to replace both furnaces in there, would the prices on the furnaces change that much if we just replaced one furnace?
Mayor and council, I don't think it would. However, I have heard of quite a jump in lumber prices are coming our way. Quite significant. So if some material is gonna be increasing, maybe that would relate to some mechanical equipment, I'm not sure. But lumber's supposed to be taking a pretty big jump here coming up soon. This spring. The equipment in these prices, I think some of them say that they're good for 60 days, 90 days, one might be a year. So I think we'll still be within that window.
But my question is, we had them bid 2 furnaces and 2 air conditioners, and if we just go with 1 furnace, does that change the price on that one?
Oh, I see,
furnace?
because they were maybe hoping on making some additional funds on this.
Yes.
I could send an email, now that we've gotten to this point, I've got their contact information readily available. I could clarify that if you'd like. So we'll include the air conditioner from the kitchen at this point, and just basically I'll communicate them that the council's looking for some more accurate comparisons. And just to confirm that their prices would still be good. Maybe that's what I'll do. Just to verify that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainbow.
I move that we, again, place an ad in the Anoka Area Chamber of Commerce map for $215.
Second. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Benjer?
I don't think we received any evidence whatsoever that this has helped bring any, business out to our communities. I don't know if this $215 is worth spending the money just to get a little business card on the map, so I would not be in favor of it. Spend it on our furnace.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rickard?
I agree with that comment, you know, but let's find somewhere else to put that money, you know, again. With the way technology is nowadays, you know, there's not that many people who request and get maps. So how many people actually truly are gonna see it? Probably slim.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
I know when the Heritage Festival hands out the maps at this and the park maps at the threshing show, that is one of the things that we go through the most of. People really like the maps. I know we talked last year about a method of tracking, but all it was discussion. We never developed a method of tracking anyway, so we wouldn't have any evidence because we didn't take that extra step to track anything. I think it's, as being a city, sometimes there are some obligations being part of an overall group, and I think that this is one of those obligations, and I would like to see us continue putting our ad in the paper or on the map.
Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
What's the motion?
That we,
To put the ad in.
to put the ad in.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails. RCA, update standard specifications for developers.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
I move that the council moves forward with the request for council action submitted by Ms. Leducer to update the standard specifications for developers with the funding coming out of the general fund engineering budget and the work being performed by Hawkinson Anderson.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
I would move, for the purpose of discussion, that item D, consideration of reducing Lot 1, Block 2 lot price.
Motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Benjer?
could clarify the motion, please?
I'm moving it forward for purpose of discussion. So I move it forward.
So you're not moving to pass it, or? I'll second it.
A motion and second, discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
Other than the party who had the bid in, or the purchase order in on that lot, saying that there were issues, do we have any documentation as to what the costs associated with fixing the grading would be? I mean, what would we be looking at as far as a reduction in price?
Mayor, if the council would like to consider looking at that, what we could do is have our engineer give us the elevations, and then based off of that, it can be determined how much fill would need to bring it up to building pad standards. I don't know what it would take for him to do that. We don't have a cost associated with that, but if that's something the city would want to consider. I just put it on there because of the discussions, because he did back out because of that reason. But I do understand there have been a couple other lots that there were some fill issues that they did bring in a bunch of fill. But, you know, these lots have been on the market since, what, 2002? And, you know, we do get a lot of people calling about them and inquiring. This is the first one that went this far, and then this was the issue. So I didn't know whether or not you wanted to consider it.
And we don't know, because nobody else is, the others that looked to build on there didn't bring that up. It could have been a convenient way for him to back out saying too much fill. His plans may have changed and that was a convenient. So we really don't know until we had the engineer go out there and say, yeah, you don't have a buildable pad there. So I think it makes sense to engage the engineer, find out what the facts are, and then determine whether we want to have that impact our asking price. That makes sense. So, from your standpoint, Councilmember Rainville, do you want to amend your motion to that effect?
Yes, I would.
All right. Second? No, you don't engage an engineer?
Nope, Mr. Mayor. I do not want to spend any money with an engineer designing a pad. And that's basically what he'd be doing, is designing a pad to put a building on, and that pad should be designed based on the building that's gonna be put on it. We should not be, other lots, even the one that Troy finally built his, last building on, they brought in fill and stuff too, cause they had to bring in good sand, so they had to remove some of the soil there and bring in sand anyway, so. I think this was just a convenient way for this last one guy to get out of the purchase agreement. I think the land is worth what we're asking for, and if we wanted to even market it more, we could maybe have the staff put it on Zillow to get, right now it's just a sign out there, so yeah, you're not gonna get a lot of people that's gonna see that, sign out on that lot and know that it's even for sale, so. If we want to try to get rid of it sooner, we could do that, try to market it a little better.
I think we heard that the street sweeper would have taken it, you know, it was available.
And Mr. Mayor, it is marketed in some other places, and I don't know how it gets found out, but I get calls all the time saying, I'm just calling to check and see if your lot's still on, and then you can hear them typing, how much are you still asking for, how many acres is it? So it's listed somewhere on some sort of business listing of vacant lots, but I don't know how it's getting out there, but, so, it is there, out there, but that Zillow is another option, but also contacting, I forget his name, would be an option too. See if he'd be interested in it.
Oh, Miller? Is that the?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Mr. Miller?
All right. So you have no second now for that. We're gonna go back to, we think we've got a reasonable price for the land. It's tax value. And this is the first time anybody said anything about Phil, so let's stick with where we're at, see what we can market.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
Just for clarification, to clean it up, I would rescind my motion for discussion then. And we keep it as is.
So at this point, is it the council's consensus that we keep the lot price where it is, at least, and see what kind of offers we get? All right? Anything additional?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Ricker?
Just one quick question, regarding Park and Rec. I was going through the minutes and there is under new members, it said in the minutes that Rainville will forward to the council, the committee requests to take applicants for new members. I was just curious why that wasn't on the agenda, because I know they're down a couple members.
Because I was gonna do it in the April meeting, because it was after the point of putting items on the agenda, which is kind of what we had talked about.
Well, then,
previous.
I guess what's the point of having a Park and Rec meeting the Tuesday before to add things to our agenda if it's not gonna get added to the agenda until the following month. Then we lose a whole month timetable, which seems kinda backwards to me. So anything that's under a time crunch now, if that's the policy that we're gonna follow all the time, you're gonna lose a month every single time. Correct or incorrect?
We had said when we had when we voted on the deadline, that if there was something that was critical, it would be forwarded to, if they're time critical, be forwarded to Corey and we would have that discussion whether it could be fitted in or not.
Who decides if it's critical? To me, if a committee's down 2 members, it's somewhat important.
Yeah, it-
So who again decides what's critical and what's not critical?
To Councilmember Rickard, I apologize for not doing that. I would move at this point then that council directs staff to begin the process for accepting applications for members to Park and Rec.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, before you adjourn, since that topic kind of came up, you had seen the one email from Dan about that he was asking about a meeting with the Road and Bridge Committee after their regular meeting, and I don't know if this would be the time to bring that up, or if you wanted to just not recognize that, or what you wanted to do with that.
I guess the intention of it, just a joint meeting to do what? That's the,
Should we ask?
Get the chair right here.
Are you asking me?
yeah,
Well, my idea was, these guys wanna know what everybody's thinking, which way we wanna head with this thing. We've got a lot of items that are coming up, major items. And I guess it's too undecided, and we'd like to get a little message from you guys. What you think we should do. The way it should be, the way we should head it, the way it should be done. There's several items that, we'd like to find out what your ideas are on. That sound fair? To make, for us to make proposals and not knowing how the council feels.
so what's the best way to do that? I mean, to have those things submitted to the council saying, we're looking for direction on this as opposed to groupthink? I mean, how do we?
Like I mentioned to you, were you there when I mentioned I was went over to Ham Lake to one of these?
Yeah,
Well, I was surprised at how it worked out, it was all, the council gave me ideas, the way to go, now they're set for the year. With the items that they know are coming, forward. But I think a lot of this, we don't know how to proceed with it.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rickard.
to go along with that then, I guess from my perspective, it realistically would not be a bad idea to have the council and our committees get together once a year, beginning of the year, whatever, and kind of give them an idea of thoughts would like them to pursue along with the items that they want to pursue.
I'd like to see it, it should be done the first of the year, because that's when everything's planned for the year. And it would help these guys, come up with a proposal to forward to the council.
Well, again,
everybody's on the same track.
and again, in my opinion, it would give them an idea of what the projects the council may want them to look at, as well as them looking at other items.
See, the council may have different ideas. And I think that'll help us, get a good direction on everything.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Bettinger.
yeah, I think as a liaison, I think I tried to give the Road and Bridge Committee some direction, but it seemed hard to get the Road and Bridge Committee to move on certain items, because if it affected money, they were afraid to do anything, and that's some of the things we need, you know, like the assessment policy, you know, the Road and Bridge Equipment Fund and the equipment replacement, the capital improvement plan and stuff. Number of things that your committee should be researching. I think this year, the loader's on the list to be replaced, and so you should be researching that and coming up with recommendations. I mean, the stuff is there, and I brought up items there, but the committee didn't seem to wanna make a motion on some of them things and do anything with it, because they're afraid they're gonna offend the taxpayers, instead of trying to do what the city needs to do the right thing. They kept, everything kinda just keeps getting pushed down the road, the cans keeps getting kicked down the road, nothing's getting done, and we need a committee that wants to, you know, like the assessment policy, take that on, and I mentioned going to the cities around us, and how do they do it? There's no wrong answer. You know, the city of Nolens, we're gonna have to come up with our own policy and decide what we're gonna do and move forward. And what we do this year may turn out not to be the right way to do it. We'll change it again next year if we have to. But just, we need to do something.
You know,
Oh, we certainly can, well, what would the council like to do?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
I would think, the council needs to decide what their direction is, what their thoughts are. Then those can be shared with the committees. I agree with Councilmember Bettinger, we do need to come up with a policy or, on how we are going to repair our roads, whether it's a general assessment. I think we'd need input also from the, city attorney, as to our ability to do that, how we have to frame that. I believe that's the better value for residents, by doing an overall assessment versus roads by road, road by road. But that, to me, the council needs to make that decision on how they want to, what road they want to go down first, and then have those conversations.
Other discussion?
Again, like you said, I think it's a good idea to communicate what our expectations are to committees, staff, whomever. Communication is key.
Well, it's communication, focused communication versus general discussion, I guess. That's what I'm kind of struggling with. Are we kind of get together and brainstorm? Or is it actually giving direction?
Maybe it's goal setting.
Huh?
Maybe it's goal setting, maybe it's, you know, first number, maybe we need to put a priority on things, and maybe the number one goal for them is to come up with an assessment policy. And number two is this, and give them a specific item to work on. And I don't necessarily think that the dust control plans every year need to go to them. Them are kind of, you know, like the gravel plan, it's a 5-year plan. That shouldn't necessarily have to go back to them every year.
Well, that's kind of the point we had with some of these you know, Joe's submitting a gravel plan, what does that committee have to do with that? I mean, if this is an advisory group that's doing research or helping identify how we do some of these things, I think gravel plans and dust control plans really isn't their bailiwick. Joe submits that as a budget item, Joe submits that as a plan, an action plan, and, you know, I don't see that as valuable to a road and bridge. And what we're doing with that road study and how we accomplish that makes a little more sense. You know, if they're doing the research. If what they're doing is sending it back to us and saying, you guys do your own research, what's the value of the committee? If they're just, if Joe says, here's what I wanna do, and that's part of his daily responsibilities, what's the value of those guys saying, yeah, go for it? So I do think that the committee should be looking at different perspectives on how do we accomplish these things? And then bringing that recommendation to us. Because if we end up doing all the research ourselves, then all we're doing is wasting their time.
I think their biggest problem is they always get tied down with the money. It's all about the money. And that's what we need to deal with here. You guys should be coming up what needs to be done. This is what needs to be done. And I think the council as a whole, we need to decide, yeah, that needs to be done, and we need to decide how we're gonna fund that. That's our job.
And so with the recommendations, then you come into that with the budget cycle. There's money in the budget currently, or we're gonna have to budget for that, or levy for that, or bond for that, or whatever it is, depending on the recommendation. But right now, I think that a lot of the activity is, like you say, dust control and road plans and things that really are budgeted items for Joe every year that he's managing and really isn't beneficial for them to spend time on. And I agree, having listened to a number of those road and bridge meetings, we can't afford that. That's not their job to determine how they're gonna afford it. It's what needs to be done, make a recommendation, and we then prioritize that or work with them in prioritizing it and say, okay, here's how we're gonna afford it.
Does that help? You still want us to come? You still want us to come to the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
I'll never end
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I think they would too, from my conversations with the guys.
No.
Weekend before that? Oh, okay.
Alice,
You know, it's only a one, like I say, once a year thing that.
A week. Oh, the April meeting, was it?
Pardon me?
Was this the April meeting you were talking about?
The what now?
April meeting?
Yeah,
Okay,
17.
sorry.
17.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Brandon.
A question for Ms. Leducer. When you post for the road and bridge and the park and rec and planning and zoning, am I correct that you also post that there may be a quorum of council at those?
On our bulletin board, we have had for many years a notice that says that there may be 3 or more council members in attendance at any meeting at any given time.
Okay, so that would cover us if we all went to some, okay.
Right.
So you don't have to do a special notice or anything?
And it wouldn't be a big deal to post it as, because if you guys are gonna be talking and kind of giving direction, you probably should post it as you guys are gonna be there as a council too. Just in case you do give some direction, so, and it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. 20.
The seniors, if we can set up tables for seniors tomorrow?
Here.